You are born into hunger, not the kind that passes with a meal, not the temporary discomfort between breakfast and lunch, but into a world where hunger is the constant companion of every waking moment, where your belly aches from emptiness more often than it feels full, where the search for food consumes your days and haunts your dreams. You roam through forests thick with shadows, across meadows golden with grass, along riverbanks where water runs clear and cold. You eat what you can find, roots dug from hard earth, nuts cracked between stones, berries plucked from thorny bushes, some sweet, some bitter, some that make you sick for days, seeds and grubs and leaves and whatever else might keep you alive another day. And meat when you can get it. But meat is rare, dangerous to obtain, requiring skill and luck and courage. Most days you survive on whatever the plant world offers, and the plant world is not generous. Most of what grows is inedible, poisonous, or so tough and bitter your body rejects it. You learn through trial and terrible error what can be eaten and what cannot. The lessons are written in sickness and death, in the bodies of those who chose wrong. But then one day, walking through a forest in a place where the sun filters warm through leaves, where water flows nearby and soil runs deep and rich, you see a tree. Not unusual in itself. The forest is full of trees, thousands of them, each contributing to the green canopy above. But this tree is different. It draws your eye for reasons you do not immediately understand. Its branches hang heavy with something that catches the light, something that seems to glow in the dappled shade. Fruit. You have seen fruit before, of course. Small hard berries, sour cherries that pucker your mouth, tiny wild plums barely worth the effort of picking. But this is different. These fruits are larger, round, hanging in clusters that make the branches bow. Some are red, deep red like sunset. Some are yellow-green, pale and promising. They smell sweet even from a distance, a scent that makes your mouth water involuntarily, that draws you forward like a physical pull. You reach up carefully, half expecting thorns or danger, but there is none. The fruit comes away in your hand easily, as if it wants to be picked. It is cool and smooth, firm but yielding slightly to pressure. You bring it to your nose and inhale. The scent is intoxicating, sweet and complex, promising something your body desperately needs. And then you bite. The skin breaks with a crisp snap that is deeply satisfying. Juice floods your mouth, sweet and tart simultaneously. A flavor so intense and perfect it makes you close your eyes. The flesh is white and firm, crunching between your teeth, releasing more sweetness with each bite. This is not like the other things you eat, the roots and grubs and bitter leaves consumed only because they keep you alive. This is pleasure. Pure, unexpected, overwhelming pleasure. You eat the entire fruit, core and seeds and all, too entranced to stop, too hungry to waste anything. And immediately you reach for another, and another. You eat until your stomach aches with fullness, a sensation so rare you have almost forgotten what it feels like. And even then you want more, not from hunger anymore, but from desire, from the simple joy of taste, of sweetness, of pleasure divorced from mere survival. This is an apple, though you do not call it that yet, though it has no name in any language spoken, just a fruit growing wild in a forest, the descendant of apples that have grown in these mountains for millions of years, shaped by birds and bears and the slow, patient work of evolution, waiting for you, You return to the tree the next day, and the day after. You gather apples carefully now, filling your arms, bringing them back to your camp to share. Others taste them and their eyes widen with the same wonder, the same delight you felt. Apples become precious, sought after, desired beyond practical need, because they offer something rare in your harsh world, joy. But the season is short. The apples ripen and fall and are gone, devoured by you and your people and the animals who compete for this bounty. The tree stands bare, its gift given, waiting for next year. And you wait too, remembering the taste, dreaming of apples through long winter months when food is scarce and bitter. And in that waiting, in that remembering, an idea forms. Slow and uncertain at first, barely more than a wish. What if the apples could be saved? What if they did not have to be eaten immediately but could be stored, carried through winter, made to last? What if there could be more trees, not just this one, but many, so the season would bring abundance rather than scarcity? You begin to experiment with preservation, driven by desire for sweetness in dark months. You try drying apples in sun, slicing them thin and laying them on rocks. It works somewhat. The dried fruit is not as delicious as fresh but retains sweetness, can be chewed through winter, provides quick energy. You try storing apples whole in cool places, in caves and underground pits, packed in leaves and moss. Some rot, filling the air with the sickly sweet smell of fermentation. But some last, staying firm and edible for weeks, sometimes months. And you notice something else. The apples that rot, that ferment, they create something interesting. A liquid that smells sharp and makes your head feel strange when you drink it. The beginning of cider, of alcohol, of a whole new category of human experience. But that is a story for later. For now, you focus on the tree. You watch it through the seasons, learning its rhythm. The flowers that appear in spring, delicate and white, covering the branches like snow. The way bees visit these flowers, crawling inside, emerging dusted with pollen. The tiny fruits that form where flowers were, growing slowly through summer, swelling and ripening as days shorten. You begin to understand dimly that flowers become fruit, that fruit contains seeds, that seeds might become trees. So you plant them. You take the seeds from the cores you have eaten, from the apples you have saved, and you push them into soil near your camp. You water them when rains do not come. You protect them from animals. You wait and wait, because apple seeds are not like grain seeds that sprout quickly and produce food within a season. Apple seeds take years to become trees, years before they flower, years more before they fruit. And when they finally do fruit, after you have nearly forgotten about them, after years of patient waiting, the apples they produce are nothing like the parent tree. They are small and hard and bitter, nearly inedible. You have discovered one of the apple's great secrets. It does not breed true from seed. Each seed is genetically unique, a gamble, a lottery. Most produce fruit that is worse than the parent, sometimes much worse. Growing apples from seed gives you trees, but not the apples you want. This is a devastating discovery. It means you cannot simply plant the seeds of good apples and grow more good apples. It means the delicious apple tree you found is unique, unreproducible through normal means. It means that for thousands of years, humanity will eat mostly terrible apples grown from seed, bitter and small and barely worth eating, while dreaming of the rare exceptional trees that produce fruit worth having. But you do not give up. You cannot give up, not when you remember that taste, that sweetness, that joy. So you keep searching. You walk through forests looking for more apple trees, tasting their fruit, finding mostly disappointment but occasionally, rarely, wonderfully, finding another tree with fruit that makes you close your eyes with pleasure. And when you find such a tree, you mark it, remember it, return to it, guard it like treasure. You learn to recognize good apple trees by sight, by the size of their fruit, by the smell when apples ripen, by the way birds flock to them. You create paths between these scattered treasures, visiting each in season, gathering their gifts. And slowly, across generations, your people develop a mental map of apple trees worth knowing, a catalog of locations passed down through memory and song. But there are never enough. Good apples remain rare, special, seasonal, until someone, some unknown genius whose name is lost forever, discovers grafting. It must have happened by accident the first time. A broken branch from one tree pressed against another, perhaps in a storm. The two growing together, fusing, the branch continuing to grow and fruit. And someone noticed. Someone saw the miracle and understood its implication. That you could take a branch from a good tree and attach it to another tree, and that branch would continue to grow and produce the same good fruit. This is one of the most important discoveries in human history, though it receives little recognition, because grafting solves the problem of apple reproduction. It means you can multiply good trees without relying on the genetic lottery of seeds. It means a single exceptional tree can become 100, 1,000, can spread across continents, can feed civilizations. It means apples can be domesticated truly, reliably, abundantly. The technique spreads slowly through cultures that cultivate apples. You learn to cut branches in late winter when trees are dormant. You learn to slice both branch and rootstock at precise angles so they fit together perfectly. You learn to bind them tightly, to seal the wound with clay or wax, to protect the graft until it heals and the two pieces become one. Your success rate is low at first, most grafts failing, but gradually you improve. You develop variations, cleft grafts, whip grafts, bud grafts, each suited to different circumstances. And suddenly, slowly, the apple transforms from a wild fruit occasionally encountered into a cultivated crop deliberately produced. You plant orchards, rows of grafted trees all descended from the same parent, all producing identical fruit. You begin to develop varieties, naming exceptional trees, propagating them widely. Each variety has its own character, its own season, its own uses. Some apples are sweet for eating fresh. Some are tart for cooking. Some store well through winter. Some make the best cider. Some ripen early in summer, some late in fall. The diversity explodes as humans select and propagate and spread apples across every temperate region of the world. From the mountains of Kazakhstan, where apples originated, they spread to Europe, to Asia, to every continent where climate permits. And with apples comes something unexpected: wealth. Because apples, unlike grain, do not need to be eaten immediately or processed laboriously. They can be picked and sold and transported. They create trade. An orchard is a valuable property, producing fruit year after year for decades or even centuries. The land where apples grow becomes worth fighting for, worth inheriting, worth protecting with law and violence. Apple-growing regions prosper. The trees provide food when other crops fail. The fruit can be eaten fresh, dried, cooked, or fermented. Nothing is wasted. Even the cores are fed to pigs. The wood is valuable for smoking meat, for making tools, for burning hot and clean. An apple orchard is security, wealth, status. But orchards require labor. Trees must be pruned each winter, shaped to produce maximum fruit, kept healthy and productive. The pruning is an art learned over years, passed from experienced growers to apprentices. Cut too little and the tree becomes a tangle, fruit small and scarce. Cut too much and the tree weakens, becomes vulnerable to disease. The balance is delicate, requiring judgment and knowledge. The fruit must be picked by hand at the right moment of ripeness. Too early and it lacks sweetness. Too late and it falls and bruises. The work is seasonal, intense, requiring many hands. Families work together. Communities organize harvest festivals. The apple harvest becomes a social event, a time of abundance and celebration, of hard work and reward. And apples begin to take on meaning beyond nutrition. They appear in myths and stories, in religious texts and folk tales. The golden apples of Greek mythology, granting immortality. The apple in Eden, symbol of knowledge and sin and the beginning of human consciousness. The apple that William Tell shot from his son's head, symbol of resistance to tyranny. Apples given as gifts, as tokens of love, as peace offerings. The fruit becomes metaphor, becomes symbol, becomes shorthand for concepts that have nothing to do with taste or nutrition. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Bad apple, apple of my eye, big apple. Apple pie as symbol of home and tradition and national identity. The fruit transcends itself, becomes language, becomes culture. But while apples are spreading and diversifying and becoming central to human culture, they remain limited in reach. They require temperate climates, winters cold enough to satisfy their dormancy needs, but not so cold they kill the trees. They grow well in Europe, in parts of Asia, in limited regions. But vast areas of the world never see apples, never taste them, remain outside the apple economy. Until European colonization begins and apples travel to new continents. Spanish missionaries bring apple seeds to the Americas, planting orchards around missions in California and the Southwest. English colonists bring their favorite varieties to the eastern seaboard, determined to recreate the orchards of home in this new world. French settlers bring apples to Canada. Dutch traders spread apples around their global network. And in America, the apple finds ideal conditions. The climate across much of the continent is perfect for apples. The soil is rich and deep. There is space, vast space, empty of apple trees and ready to be filled. European settlers plant orchards as they expand westward, bringing civilization, as they see it, to wilderness. And apples come to represent that civilization, that settling, that transformation of wild land into productive property. This is where John Chapman enters the story, the man who becomes legend as Johnny Appleseed. The real man is more interesting than the legend. He is not a barefoot wanderer randomly scattering seeds, not a simple innocent. He is a businessman, a nurseryman, a speculator in land and trees. He travels ahead of settlement, planting apple nurseries, establishing property rights, then selling trees to settlers who follow. His apples are not meant for eating. They are small and bitter, grown from seed because that is fastest and cheapest. They are meant for cider, for alcohol, because in early America, alcohol is currency, is nutrition, is medicine, is entertainment. Water is often unsafe to drink. Milk spoils. But cider, fermented apple juice, is safe, nutritious, and mildly intoxicating. Every farm has an orchard primarily for cider production. Johnny Appleseed is not planting food for the stomach, but intoxication for the spirit, commerce for the pocketbook. And cider is everywhere in early America. Children drink it. Workers drink it for breakfast. It is safer and more available than clean water. Hard cider contains alcohol enough to kill bacteria, but not enough to cause serious drunkenness when consumed in normal quantities. It is social lubricant, calorie source, digestive aid. The cider economy is huge, with millions of barrels produced annually. But then comes temperance, the movement to reduce alcohol consumption, driven by religious fervor and genuine concern about alcoholism's social costs. Cider gets caught up in this movement, increasingly seen as demon drink rather than wholesome beverage. Orchards are cut down in acts of moral righteousness. Cider production plummets. The apple must reinvent itself or face obsolescence. And reinvent it does through brilliant marketing. The apple industry begins promoting eating apples, fresh fruit as healthy snack. They develop new varieties specifically for eating fresh, sweeter and larger, and more appealing than the small bitter cider apples. Red Delicious becomes the symbol of this transformation. Bred for appearance, for deep red color and perfect shape, for ability to ship without bruising. That it tastes like cardboard seems not to matter. It looks like what people imagine an apple should look like. The marketing works spectacularly. An apple a day keeps the doctor away becomes a ubiquitous slogan, implying health benefits that are somewhat exaggerated but not entirely false. Apples do contain fiber and vitamins. They are better for you than candy or cake. The apple becomes associated with health, with wholesomeness, with virtue. Teachers receive apples from students, a symbol of education and respect. The apple becomes American icon, representing rural virtue, pioneer spirit, wholesome living. But the diversity is disappearing. Of the thousands of apple varieties that once existed, grown in specific regions for specific purposes, most are being lost. Commercial agriculture favors standardization. Supermarkets want a few reliable varieties that look good, ship well, store long. Red Delicious, Golden Delicious, Granny Smith, a handful of others dominate the market. Regional varieties, heirloom apples with names like Spitzenbug and Pippin and Sheepnose, disappear from commercial production. They do not go extinct entirely. Dedicated enthusiasts maintain collections, preserve rare varieties, graft old trees before they die. But they become rare, special, known only to connoisseurs and historians. The average person eats a tiny fraction of the apple diversity that exists, never knowing what has been lost. And the apples they do eat are often disappointing. Bred for appearance and shipping rather than flavor, many modern commercial apples are mediocre at best. They look perfect, uniform, glossy. They last for months in cold storage, but they taste bland, mealy, forgettable. The joy that your ancestors felt biting into wild apples has been bred out in favor of commercial convenience. But then comes a counter-movement. Farmers' markets begin selling heirloom varieties, apples with russet skin and irregular shapes but incredible flavor. Cider makers rediscover traditional varieties bred specifically for cider, with tannins and acidity that create complex fermented beverages. Consumers begin seeking out interesting apples, unusual varieties, flavor over appearance. The apple pendulum swings back toward diversity, slowly, imperfectly, but noticeably. And new varieties are being developed, combining modern breeding techniques with appreciation for flavor. Honeycrisp revolutionizes the market with its crisp texture and sweet tart balance, proving that consumers will pay premium prices for superior apples. Jazz, Pink Lady, Sweet Tango, each new variety trying to capture that perfect combination of flavor and texture and appearance and storage life. The science of apples has become sophisticated. Researchers understand apple genetics now, can identify genes responsible for particular traits, can breed with precision impossible to your ancestors. They develop disease-resistant varieties, reducing need for pesticides. They create apples suited to warming climates, to marginal growing conditions, extending the range where apples thrive. And the apple has gone global in ways unimaginable a century ago. China is now the world's largest apple producer, growing nearly half the world's apples. Apples grow in every temperate region, every continent except Antarctica. They have become one of the most successful fruit crops in human history, third only to banana and orange in global production. The infrastructure around apples is staggering. Orchards covering millions of acres. Storage facilities maintaining precise temperatures and atmospheres to keep apples fresh for months. Processing plants turning apples into juice, sauce, cider, vinegar, dried fruit, pectin. Distribution networks moving apples from orchard to consumer across thousands of miles. The apple economy employs millions, generates billions in revenue, feeds countless people. But the environmental cost is becoming clear. Modern apple production relies heavily on pesticides and fungicides, chemicals sprayed dozens of times per season to protect against the multitude of insects and diseases that attack apples. The chemicals drift, contaminate water, harm beneficial insects, endanger farm workers. The environmental toll of perfect, unblemished fruit is higher than consumers realize. Organic apple production is possible but challenging. Without chemical protection, apples become spotted, wormy, scarred. Yields drop, costs rise. Few consumers are willing to pay the premium for imperfect organic apples when pristine conventional ones cost half as much. The market pressures favor continued chemical use despite environmental concerns. And there is the monoculture problem. When orchards consist of just one or two varieties grafted on identical rootstocks, disease can devastate entire regions. A fungus, a virus, an insect pest that overcomes the variety's resistance can destroy millions of trees. Diversity provides resilience, but commercial pressures favor uniformity. The tension between efficiency and sustainability remains unresolved. Climate change poses new challenges. Apple trees require certain amounts of winter chill, hours below specific temperatures, to break dormancy properly and produce fruit. As winters warm, traditional apple-growing regions are losing chill hours, seeing reduced production, requiring new varieties bred for lower chill requirements. Some regions may become unsuitable for apples entirely. Others, currently too cold, may become viable. The geography of apple production is shifting, yet apples persist. They adapt, through human intervention to changing conditions. New varieties are developed. New growing techniques are tested. New markets emerge. The apple is remarkably resilient, shaped by millennia of coevolution with humans, refined by countless generations of selection and breeding, adapted to countless climates and purposes. You stand in an orchard today, if you choose to visit one, surrounded by trees heavy with fruit. The apples hang in clusters, red and yellow and green, smelling sweet in autumn air. You reach up and pick one, feeling its weight, its coolness, its perfect shape. You bite through crisp skin into white flesh, juice running down your chin, sweetness flooding your mouth. And in that moment, you are connected across 10,000 years to your ancestor who first tasted wild apples in a forest, who felt that same burst of sweetness and joy. The fruit is different now, larger and sweeter and more reliable. The trees are cultivated rather than wild, grafted rather than grown from seed. The orchards are managed precisely rather than found by chance. But the essential experience remains unchanged. An apple is still an apple, sweet and satisfying, nourishing and delightful. A gift from a tree, from the earth, from the patient work of countless humans across countless generations who selected and grafted and tended and improved. Each apple you eat carries that history, that labor, that knowledge accumulated over millennia. The apple's journey through time is not finished. New chapters are being written now in research labs and orchards, in farmers' markets and supermarkets, in backyards and commercial operations. The future of apples depends on choices being made today about diversity and sustainability, about flavor and appearance, about corporate agriculture and local food systems. Will we preserve the incredible diversity of apple varieties that exist, the thousands of named cultivars and countless more unnamed seedlings? Or will we let standardization reduce apples to a handful of commercial varieties? Will we develop sustainable growing methods that work with nature rather than against it? Or will we continue chemical-intensive production that harms ecosystems? Will we value flavor and nutrition over appearance and storage life? Or will commercial pressures continue shaping apples toward mediocrity? The answers depend on what we demand, what we're willing to pay for, what we value. Every time you buy an apple, you vote for a particular kind of future. Choose organic and you support sustainable farming. Choose heirloom varieties and you encourage diversity. Choose local and you reduce transportation impacts. Choose flavor over appearance and you shift market forces toward better tasting fruit. The apple waits in orchards and markets, patient as always, ready to nourish and delight as it has for thousands of years, ready to continue its journey through time, shaped by the choices of another generation of humans who will determine what apples become, what varieties survive, what the next chapter holds. From wild fruit in mountain forests to global commodity, from rare treat to everyday snack, from symbol of knowledge to icon of health, the apple has journeyed far, but its essence remains unchanged. A fruit that brings joy, that nourishes body and delights senses, that connects us to earth and seasons, and the long history of humans learning to work with plants. The apple's journey through time continues, and you are part of that journey now, shaping it with each choice, each bite, each tree planted or variety preserved or orchard supported. The future of apples is not predetermined. It is being created now by you and millions of others whose choices accumulate into the next chapter of this ancient story. What kind of apple future will you choose? one of diversity or uniformity, sustainability or exploitation, flavor or convenience. The choice, like the fruit itself, is in your hands.